Hello and welcome to this game review. So in this one we will talk a bit about time management and how to look for good moves under pressure. So it started with knight c3 here. Here bishop f4 is not perhaps a very good move. Generally we should take the center if possible, but of course we're probably not e4 players, so we don't know really the French. After d5 this is a whole thing that has to be studied. So unfortunately we have to play this bishop f4 move, and this is one of the other reasons why the London Jobava system is not very good, as we're kind of restricted to one line of play. We always have to put our bishop here or always our knight here, and we cannot really do anything else. Well, black can do a lot of things, and here black is developing quite normally, and they're already using the poorly placed knight on c3. Here e3 was played. After knight d5, already black at minimum can win the bishop pair, so this whole variation should suggest that we should not really play this opening. But okay, knight d5, knight e2, and here after knight f4, black is of course slightly better because he has the bishop pair and white doesn't really have any compensation for it. But knight c5 is played, which makes sense as well, but here white could have concretely gained a small advantage by playing the move a3. The idea being that if black takes here and then takes here, at the end of all this, we are in a position where white has quite good development. He has quite good control of the center, and black has some problems on the dark squares, for example on d6 potentially, and white can develop quite quickly and castle queenside. Otherwise, if he takes here, we can gain a similar type of position. If here, we can take, and again we get something similar as all of black's developed pieces were exchanged. White has some decent activity, some good control over central squares, and he should be a little bit better. But instead bishop takes b8 is played, but this is a very bad move as it gives up a good bishop for a knight that was not doing anything. Instead we should at least move away the bishop. But now black again has the bishop pair. Here we take, and the queen d4, so black is slightly better, but it's not anything special, castles, and white plays queen e5. So here white had 12 minutes, and here with 12 minutes against 15 after 9 moves, we're not really in a very good position, as this means that we will be running out of time quite soon, and our opponent is playing very quickly. In general, of course, we should look for candidate moves and try to decide on what's best. And here, if we think about at least 3 candidate moves, surely castling queenside should be one of them. And here, of course, the structure will not be very pleasant if black accepts to go here. But at the end of all this, we are a pawn ahead. Otherwise, black can also take here. But again, black has only one developed piece, so we shouldn't be extremely scared. Otherwise, there's not really much wrong with castling queenside, finishing development finally, as this is one of white's problems in this position. Instead, queen e5, moving around the same queen twice. There was no reason to go here. Black goes to a8, but interestingly, even something like d6 aims to exploit the disadvantage in development. For example, after this, black can take here, and even the rook does not matter, as black is just winning on the queen side. So rook a8, and now g3. Again, moving around pawns, but this should really be solved. So castling queenside should happen as soon as possible. And yes, black can again take if they like. But at the end of this, we are exchanging black's advanced pieces, so we should be quite fine. Instead, this happened, and finally the tension was somewhat resolved. And we get this endgame, where white is clearly slightly worse. Because of his structure, black has the easy play on the open file, and he should be slightly better. But such positions are definitely holdable with good play, though the time situation suggests that we should speed up a little bit, as we have only 7 minutes. So bishop d7, bishop g2, d5. And one idea in such positions when we are defending, the most common idea is to exchange as many pawns as possible to get rid of our weaknesses, and specifically our weaknesses are here, and this is a great moment to play the move c4, as if the pawn is taken we can take here and then move the bishop away, and white should be more or less fine. As soon as he connects the rooks, he will be already better, maybe, due to this pawn. And now we have not black has not gotten anything to attack on the queen side. So rook b1 instead, which makes sense, but after b6 now, if c4, black will give up the pawn on d5 to activate the rook. King d2 is played, and now white will again have to suffer in this position. So e4 is played, and this kind of frees up the position, but it does not really help white's cause too much, though maybe there's not that much else to do. So now black doubles on the c file, well, c and d file, and a few moves later, suddenly it's white who takes advantage of black's coordination, and here rook d3 is a very good move, not passively defending this pawn, but thinking about our own active ideas, and now the pawn is defended due to bishop c6, so rook goes back to c5. Perhaps black should have invested in his king, and now to meet this with this, and this rook endgame is definitely going to be better for black because of the structure and the more active rook. But now rook c5, the other rook joins the game. Here white had 5 minutes and spent half of his time on this move, and this is generally not a very good idea to spend so much time on one move, especially when the move is not that significant. So the bishop is attacked, so we probably should move it, but we also have one candidate move, which is rook b to d4, giving up the bishop to take this one. But black would probably play rook f8, after which the f2 pawn is hanging, so this is not very pleasant, though the engine suggests that this is playable somehow due to the weakness of the king, though I would be quite scared here. So if we calculate that much and don't like the position, then we just play bishop g2 quite quickly, because now we have 2 minutes, which will definitely not be enough to hold a worse endgame. So e5. Now white makes some progress on the king side. g4 is a nice idea, e4, but now white has somewhat of an advantage because black can't really move their pieces. So here it's important to understand that black can't really move anything. The rook cannot move because of this, the bishop cannot move because of this, the king cannot move because he is defending these pieces, and the bishop and, well, everything cannot move. So white has time to improve the position somewhat, and one idea is to improve the king and ask black what he is doing. For example, h5, we can play c4, maybe improve the king this way, and maybe maybe white will have some ideas on the f5 pawn. And rook h6, rook h8, but now black is out of the pin. Here we should have played f3 to at least keep creating threats of taking here. If here, then we can go here and keep exchanging pawns. There is a small weakness on f5, and the rook from f3 will also defend the pawn. But unfortunately now we only have 1 minute against 7 minutes, so the position was already quite dire because of the time situation. And from here, white did not manage to save the position because there is no more counterplay. Here the only counterplay was from this spin. We cannot exploit it directly, unfortunately, but as you can see, black cannot really move anything. Again, we can do something like c4, though at this point he can take, so maybe we should do something else. But either way, black cannot really move, so white should not really be worse. But after this, the bind was gone, white lost some tempi, and the game is more or less over. So here, firstly, the opening was quite problematic, but even after a not very well played opening, we can survive if we abide by the opening principles, and moving around the queen many times for no reason is not generally a good idea. After this, black could have developed a big initiative with d6 or even b6, as the rook does not really hang because of knight takes c3. So hopefully this was useful, and see you next time.